right, let's get started. Good afternoon. How is it going? Good, very good. Any questions on anything so far? All right, well then let's move on from where we were last time. I just had a comment. I graded at least a couple assignments, so it seems like pretty much everyone is now up on your servers, web servers. So that's great. The only thing I saw was several students still don't match the name of the URL with the name of the folder. So I knew that if I add the web 110 to the URL, it would work, but your links, a couple of students didn't work when you click on it. So remember that if your file is in the web 110 folder, the URL needs to have web 110 as part of it, right? Does this make sense? Or if not, let me know so we can talk more about it. Okay. So the folder has to be part, or the proper term is actually directory. When I say directory, I mean the folders, but again, in web terms, we call it directory. You need to make sure that the directory name is part of the URL and then the file name, right? So if the file assignment2.html is in the web 110 folder, then the URL would need to be stanimary.dreamhosters.com/web110/assignment2.html. All right, so make sure to test your links. That goes for everyone, including myself. Before you submit the link, make sure to test it to make sure it works, right? So you have to click on it, and then you see that it does go to the page you think it's going to before you submit this assignment, right? Nobody likes to get to a broken link. And technically, I will be giving you 0. I'm still being, fairly flexible since we're all new to this. But at some point, if the link doesn't work, it should be a 0 assignment. So you need to test your links. All right. Well, let's do just a brief review on links. And then there is one more topic on links we didn't cover last time. Hopefully today the network cooperates better for us so we can make more progress. And then after that, today we're going to get started with images. And so far I have your assignment 3 is due on Wednesday. And then we just have to see. We just had some difficulties, so we're going to, I think it's probably still going to be due on Wednesday, just depending how we do today, all right? And then we figure out if I'm going to give you another assignment this week or not, just depending how things go today and Wednesday. So as far as links, let's just do a brief review of where we are so far, and then we're going to talk about something called anchor links. All right, so far we have covered, I'll just go to the summary here. That's a good way to review. Now we know that links are created using the anchor tag, right? And we know that we use the href attribute to specify the URL of the link where we want to go to, right? And there are 2 types of links, generally speaking, that we work with, and they're absolute or relative links. If the link is on your own website, would it be a relative link or an absolute? Relative, okay? And then the other possibility is that if it starts with HTTP or HTTPS, then it's an absolute link. And I told you this before, and now I think it's probably easier to understand what I mean. Nothing prevents you from using an absolute link for the link on your own page. You just have to specify the entire URL, right? So in other words, if you wanted to say geosparks.com, so http geosparks.com/web110/assignment2, you can put this instead of just web110 assignment2. It just doesn't really make a lot of sense, but you can do it. So all links are inherently absolute, but if it's on your own server, you can treat them as relative links. All right. Okay. And then we also learned a special tag to create the email, mail-to, the mail-to tag, which allows you to say, the behavior of the mail-to tag is such that it's going to open the default email editor program on your computer and then put that email address that you specified there and try to send an email, right? So if you don't have any email editor set up, it's just going to not find one. But that's not something you can really fix. It just depends on how the computer is configured in terms of what its default mail program is, right? Does this make sense? Okay. So we learned that. we learned about the target attribute, which is going to allow you to open the page in a new tab. And we also talked that you should add an additional attribute included in the article because of some safety issues that essentially lend target blank to malicious behavior. So you need to read the article if you haven't already, or at least be aware, in this safe setting here, it doesn't really matter probably, but if you're doing real work, professional work, you need to include the second tag. So essentially, the second attribute, not tag, the second attribute disables the opening of a new page instead of the page you're trying to open, right? So that's how, that's the workaround around this target issue here, okay? And so that's what we covered. And the last part that we haven't talked about is, sometimes there are very lengthy pages, and then when you're at the bottom of the page, you can click and it's going to say back to top. Have you seen pages like that? Right? Or if you're at the top of the page, if there's a lot of content, you can click and say bottom and it's going to take you. So in other words, those are links again that are within the page itself. So these are the kind of links we haven't talked about yet in class, and we're going to do an example here with them, right? It's going to look the same. So it's going to be a link, and then instead of linking to a relative or absolute URL, it's going to link to something that looks like that. And does anyone know what? I know you know. Well, let's see. I know you know what this is. You want to tell the class? Right here, the hashtag. You were using it last time. Okay, it's fine. Say again. It's a okay. It's a ID attribute, and that too. Okay, yeah. All right. Very good. But what I was getting at is this is a different type of attribute called an ID, and then the ID attribute is represented with a hashtag or the other name that you said here. And so the way we're going to do this, we're going to give, the way this works is that you give the part of the page you want to link to an ID, and then you link to that ID as opposed to a page itself, okay? So that's pretty much all there is. And you might, if you haven't seen IDs yet, now is the time. And so here is an example where the prologue link here is pointing to hashtag prologue. And then for this to work on the page, there needs to be an element that has an ID of prologue. So those two need to connect. And in fact, there is an H2 with the ID of prologue. So you have to have both the ID and then reference the ID in the link in place of a relative or absolute link. All right. So let's do this example so you can see how it works. And then we're going to just want to add a lot of text, a lot of placeholder text, so that you're essentially part of your page is what we call under the fold, so that you can see the page moving. Because if you just have a few lines, you won't be actually able to see the behavior here. All right. And this is again how you link from one part of the page to another. This is the prologue, and again, this slide here shows you have to have both the ID and then reference the ID. All right. Yeah, sure. All right. So since that's not related to what we're doing, I'm going to help you, but afterwards, okay? I'll help you afterwards. Just remind me, because it's not related to what the class is doing. Yeah. Yeah, so let's just work on this and then remind me, and I'll show you after class or in the break. Yeah. So right now we need to create a new page. So we're going to open your Visual Studio Code. And then create a new file. So first of all, before you create a new file, what is the first thing you should do? Let's do a review now that my Visual Code works. We need to always open a folder first. We need to open the folder to reference, so that Visual Studio knows to reference this folder regarding your work. So open a folder. And I think most of us are working on the Web 110 folder, so select this folder. And then we're going to create a new file. Here. All you have to do is select. It seems like you don't have anything in there, so.
No, I do actually.
Do you have two web
Why do I
content
have all
folders?
that in there?
Okay. Well, that's right now. That's not something. Again, we have to look at it later. But right now, just create a new file inside the folder. Right. So reference your folder, open folder, and then create a new file in the folder. And so this file we're going to call. Let's see. We can call it specific part. So new file. Save as. Specific part.html, for example. Right. I think that I've lost my settings, so that's an opportunity to try the settings again to change the font size real quick. So preferences, settings. So this is where you search for any kind of setting you want to change. This is the format is essentially these key value pairs here. And I'm going to search for font size, which is here. Change it to 20, let's say 24. And this should simply work now. Here.
Click on that thing there.
Yeah, so it's something about, it seems to think that there is a dirty file in there. So 24. Okay, so
Save.
save. So modify.
Yeah, so just close that. And
Yeah,
it should
this
just,
should work.
I didn't update. Oh. Try it again.
No, it hasn't updated.
Okay, go back over here. Say, hit Control S to save it. Okay, now click on that editor. Click on Show Only Modified Only. Click on 22.
24.
24, returning.
Right? I did.
Okay.
I mean, I'm doing everything I should be doing, so.
Yeah, so now click on, so that one, workspace settings. Now click on user settings.
Oh, okay, now it's working. Thanks.
That's the, I don't know how it does that way for me.
Okay. All right, so if you have a template, then you can open your template and save as this file, or you can just quickly add a few tags here. So can you see okay in the back now with this size, font size? Specific part, yeah, so linking to specific part. Can you see back here? Okay, very good. All right, let's see here. $26. Okay. Yeah, I think that's now 26. All right, so let's create a few items on the page. We have an H1 with the idea of top, so that's the top of the page. And so we're going to go with this example of film making terms, although I'm going to have you add some filler text, as I mentioned, so you can see the page move, but we'll get to this in a second. Okay? And then we're going to have a anchor, a link is equal to hashtag workshop. These are just terms for fictional film-related site. And so if you have, so what we're trying to do here, so here I'm going to add a comment. Here we want to link to the ArcShot part of the page. Does this make sense? Right? And we haven't created this yet. So now we actually need to create what this ArcShot is. Shot. There you go. Thank you. Actually, it's shot, so this is, it doesn't matter. And so we want to create an H2. So essentially, the format is an element that has an ID. So this is the new bit for you, for some of you, which is the ID. And then the ID we want is ArcShot. We need to match. Essentially, these two have to match. That's the key. Okay. And then here we're going to grab several paragraphs from one of the lorem ipsum sites and then put it here so that it can make the page bigger. All right. But before we do this, again, let me talk a little more here. So an ID is an attribute, and you can tell this by the format. It has the same format as the href attribute and some other attributes we used. It has the type of the attribute and then the value. All right. And the ID attribute, so actually I should have showed you this here. The ID attribute is used for cases such as this one where you want to identify an element on the page uniquely. So there is possibly, let's say there are several H2 elements on the page, but if you want to reference specifically this one, you're going to give it an ID. And so that's going to make it unique. Does this make sense, right? So we have, 29 students in the class, but each one is unique by giving it the name. So that's what the ID is like in terms of a web page. And now once we have given this H2 an ID, then we can link to it. All right? Any questions? All right. So let's go ahead and add some filler text here so we can make our, H2 paragraph or H2 heading as long as possible so that you can actually see it linking, because otherwise you won't see anything happening. Okay, so let's go to, how about kitten ipsum? I don't know if there is movie ipsum or film ipsum, so just pick one of the ipsums that I told you, whichever one you want. And then go ahead and copy several paragraphs. And remember that for this to actually wrap around, in some cases, if you want to have a new paragraph, you can just put a break in between, and then just this way, give yourself more space on the page. Okay, so there is another setting I'm going to try to modify if this thing lets me here. And this is the editor wrap on. So what I want is, like in Notepad, I want the text to wrap to the next line instead of going off the page. So yeah, but I can just set it here. I want to set it here if this, yeah, so I think it worked. All right. Okay. Yeah, so you always go, that's the nice thing about this editor. You always go, whatever you want to change in terms of the configuration of your editor, You always go to Preferences, Settings, and then you search for the setting that you are interested in changing, such as, in this case, I was searching for wrap. And I wanted, now in my file, my editor wrap is on. So that's why the paragraphs wrap instead of just continuing on indefinitely. Right? So if you'd like, take a minute to change this as well. It's good to have it changed. Oops. Sure. So File, Preferences, Settings. You're not finding it?
No, I just trying to see if I entered it.
Aaron is giving country advice there. All right. Yeah. Okay, there you go. All right. No, you're right, you're right. But it's good to know how to change it from here as well. So now let's go ahead and test our file and see if we can demonstrate the behavior. So this is in the Web 110 folder. No. Eventually, I want to show you the live preview feature, but so essentially what happens is when you click here, it will go to top, but we need to add some more. We need to add some more lines here for this to work, or to see what it does. All right, so let's add a couple more items here in the same format. The second one is going to be the interlude, and again, hashtag to demonstrate that this is an ID, although actually hashtag is not mandatory. And then interlude. Okay. And go ahead and add a break between these. And the next one is going to be prologue. And now we need to create IDs for interlude and prologue. So we're going to create a couple additional elements. They can be H2 or they can be something else. and then give them the corresponding ID so that you can see how it links. All right. So interlude, and the other thing I would suggest is it's fairly common to make to have a typo when you type those names. They have to match exactly. So if you are prone to making typos, just copy the name and then paste it in the ID instead of typing it again. Essentially, the more copy and paste you can do, the better in terms of making less typing errors, which just complicates the matter. So after the H2 for the first, for the arc shot, we're going to add another H2 and give it the idea of interlude. To be lowercase though. Did I make this uppercase here? And in this case sensitive, so you want to have the same case. You can just copy and paste the same text. Again, there's just filler text. I'm just trying to give us enough text so that we can actually go below and above the fold, and I'll show you what this means. We need just a little more here. And then let's repeat for the prologue. So we're going to add one more here. H2 with the ID. Again, it doesn't have to be H2, just any, you can do this with any element. Prologue. And these should be paragraphs, but the reason I'm using them in the H2 is because they're bigger font size. So we're just, again, trying to get it to actually scroll off the viewport of the page, which is called above and below the fold. And finally, let's see here. What did I do here? So in the top, we have an H1 with the ID of top. And what we want to do is when we scroll all the way down and we read all this, and then we want to go back to the top, we want to link from the bottom to the top. So we're going to add here an anchor. It can be, see, we can do a break here. And then A, href is equal to. So if I wanted to link to the top, what do I need to say down here now? We've done 2 so far. The H1's ID, which happens to be hashtag top, so that's correct. So I'm linking to this element with ID of top. Then save. All right, so finally we have down here. So if I click, do you see what happened? So I want to show you. So if you're reading the page and you're scrolling down, and then you are at the bottom of the page and you want to get back on top, then if you click the top, it's going to link you back to the top. And then each of these other ones are going to link you to the paragraph that is with ID specified here, interlude or prologue. Yeah, so I have a typo here as well. Okay, so this is, where is the place you wanted to see? One thing we should do maybe to make this a little more clear, at the beginning of each of these paragraphs with a filler text, you can add the word. So this way you can at least know that you linked to this place. So here we can say arc shot. Here we can say interlude. And then what else do we have? Prologue. All right, so let's save this again, and I'll bring back the code. I just want to show you the behavior. I think it helps. Let's try this again. So if we are starting at the top, and then ArcShot is pretty much on the same page, so it doesn't really move anywhere. But if I click on interlude, it's going to take me, do you see here the interlude? All right. And if I click on prologue, it should take me to the prologue, which is down here. And again, if I scroll all the way down and I click top, that's the best demo of, even though the same is happening in all cases, it's going to take me back to the top because this H1 has an ID that matches the anchor. Say again, if you close it, yeah, if you do that, that would be because to make it bigger, that's true. So we can do that. But I think students wanted to see the code, so let's see here. Yeah, very good. So go ahead and take a look at the code, and there is a lot of it, so I'll just put it probably up here for starters. But remember, you have to have a matching pair for this to work. You have to have an element with ID, and then a link to that ID. So that's pretty much what we're doing here. Aaron?
Like the various anchors, each one for our you shrink that. If you don't shrink that, that way you see the pair of the ID top of the.
You mean in the code?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how to shrink in Visual Studio. How do I shrink? I would have to remove all. Do you know how to shrink it?
Yeah. So if you go hover on the.
Oh, you mean just here? Just collapse?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, there. So if that's helpful, I'm not sure if that's helpful.
Yeah.
But
Well, you'll see in a second.
Right.
Okay. Now, so you see where that href for the top. So if you scroll up a little bit, top is up there. Down here you have the href. So kind of flip flops, right? It's just a way for like it's better to organize it that way because a lot of times you get the paragraphs will take up too much of the code.
right.
You just want to see the outline effect.
But you understand why we did that, right?
Right.
Because we can't see the effect otherwise.
Right.
But so let's take a look actually with what Aaron suggested. So line 7, what is the matching link for line 7? What is the line number that we're matching? So this might help you to figure out what's going on. So H1 is matching with 40, okay? Do you see why that is? Right, again, we're looking at IDs. Okay, and then the next line is a link to ArcShot on line 9. What is it referencing? Line 15, all right? Because there is an ID ArcShot here, all right? And then the next one is interlude. This is line 11. What is this going to link to? Line 23, which is the H2 with the ID of interlude. And that's all we have. We just have 3. No, we have 4 links. Right. And then the prologue is 13, which links with 32. All right. So maybe that's the best way to look at the code. So I'll leave it like this for now. But we didn't need to add the text so you can see it on the page. And so a couple of terms for you. When you look at the page, what you can see on the page, that is actually in the viewport, that's what's called the viewport. This is the viewport of your page. And then when you scroll after that, this is called below the fold. And that's actually a metaphor from the newspaper times. And the idea was that the important information is above the fold. So when you're designing your pages, you want to place your important information above the fold and then not as important below the fold. And that's what this term refers to. And then viewport is, again, what you're seeing on your screen. That's the viewport. Right. Okay, any other questions or comments? Maybe you should add one more just for practice. Why don't you add? So is there anything after the prologue in terms of films? What is there? Sequel or something? Or you can, actually, yeah, that's a pretty good one. How about you create a link from the top that you can take you all the way down to the bottom, all right? And give this a try, and then we can do it together. So we have a link from the top, from the bottom to the top, and now add a link from the top to take you to the bottom. All right. All right. Good suggestions, Aaron. Thank you. I know it might sound like it's a lot of, it might sound a little confusing, but it's just really just links. So it's the same idea, anchor tags. href is linking to the specific part of the page. And then you have, instead of a page, you're actually linking to an element, right? How are you doing here? You're working on something else.
Yeah, I'm working on that one because I couldn't
Okay.
show you
But
the
it-
file you said.
Yeah, but it's not due until Wednesday, and you're now missing this material. So
I know, but I couldn't link it up in that app, remember? It was say like a click this.
and you just say select folder.
Yeah,
Yeah. So now you have selected the folder, and here are the files. You're good. So just
I know,
add them
but
in.
they're all like something that I've been working on. And
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, this one you have to create. It's not there yet, so you have to make a new file. But well, we are almost done with this exercise. But yeah. So for the next thing we do, just you are now in the Web 110 folder. These are the files in your folder, and you're just going to create another one, and it will be placed in this folder.
I mean, like open it with a new one.
A new file.
Yeah.
Yeah. So say file new, and it's going to place it in your Web 110 folder. Right. There you go. Exactly. And save as. Save as the name.
So how do I know it's like right in the middle?
Because that's the whole point. If you open this folder, the point is going to put it in that file, in that folder. So if you save it now, it's going to save it there. Yeah. All right. Would you like, let's do this together real quick. It might be useful. So what we're trying to do, let's see, we're trying to link from the top to the bottom. All right. So we need to have something to link to. Well, you tell me. What should we, how do we solve this problem? Linking from the top to the bottom. Where do we start? You need something, we need an element with an ID. And would this be at the top or at the bottom, Tommy? At the bottom, we're going to add another element. We can make it an H2. Again, it can be anything. And we need to give it an ID. So ID is equal to, what would be a good name for this ID? Bottom would be a good name for it. We'll give it the ID bottom. Oops. Okay. And then what else do we need to do? We need to make a reference, and we say we want to reference from the top. So we're going to go on at the top of the page and then add a reference in terms of an anchor, href. And then it's going to reference to hashtag bottom. Right. You actually don't have to say hashtag, but it's just more clear what's going on if you say it. And then here's that. Okay. So let's save. It should go to the other page. So let's test this and see if it works. What's that? Well, yeah, this will be, it will actually go to the bottom of the page anyway. Let's try it both. We should add some text, but this should just actually move to that location even if there's nothing there. So let's try this real quick, and then we're going to add text. So we are going to refresh the page. Something going to save. Huh. Yeah, we can put something there. Okay, we can put it now. I'm just looking that my page is not refreshing. So, oh, I see. Hmm. Okay. Yeah, it should, even there is nothing there. But I'm dealing with a problem that my page is not saving. So I think that's oh, here we go. Now it's saved. Just give me 1 second. This is, I think, the network being slow or. Because you see that it's not showing. Oh wait, I don't think I have anything there. You're right. That actually was me. Okay, this was my bad. So here is where we need to say bottom, right? And then save again. No wonder it was not showing. And then when we click it, you can see it goes to the bottom. But then we should really add some text there, which is this is the end of the page. Or this is the end. And as you can see, it takes us to the end. This is the end. Okay. All right. So if you leave off the text, which I didn't mean to do, but I did it still works, by the way. But of course, you should add the text. Yeah. So I just forgot to do it. It's just blank. Yeah, so it goes there, but it's just blank, so it's not showing. If we knew where it is, we could have clicked there, and it would work even though there is nothing there. Yeah. Probably not the best user experience, right? Right. Yeah. That's right. That's in PHP there is a hidden field in a form that you can use, and it doesn't show, but it still transports essentially data from the form to the database. So yeah, there is use for those, but not here probably. Any questions? And raise your hand if something is not working to take a look at. All right, it looks like everyone here is working. Okay. So Angela, I see a lot of text there. Are you able to see what we're seeing here? Because you only have a few paragraphs, so you're not off below the fold. So are you able to see this behavior? I think it works probably, but it's not visible since you don't have enough text. Yeah, so just add some more text. All right, so generally speaking, that's the last topic with links. So we now know how to link to the page, to external link, to a page, or to a part of the page, right? And did we learn anything else? We learned about file structure, directory structure in this chapter as well, which is very important. So at this point, you should more or less be able to know how to organize your pages in folders, and then use FileZilla to upload the same structure on your server. All right. And we learned the ID attribute. So that's a really important attribute. It's used a lot because it's also very efficient. If you're just looking for one thing on the page, it's very fast to find. So it's an efficient attribute. And if you can use it generally, it's a best practice to use an ID as opposed to other ways of getting to an element. All right. So, okay, fine. It's not been an hour, but all right. It's a natural stopping point. So let's take a break. And then when we come back from break, we're going to talk more about images. Although I know some of you already have images uploaded, but we're going to move on to chapter 5, I think. Okay, so break. So now we're moving to the next chapter, chapter 10, chapter 5. All right, so I'm going to go over some material, and this usually causes confusion. Essentially, we're going to need to have some images for you to work with that you're going to need to download. So we're going to go over some concepts, download some images for you to work with locally. And then I have a short video to show you, just 3 minutes, about using essentially Photoshop to resize images and to save for the web, which is essentially lowers the resolution. Because when you're loading images on the web, you want them to load as quickly as possible. But let's get started with images. Oh, I have all this. That's the wrong one. Did I link? I think I might have linked to the wrong folder. Okay. All right, fix this real quick. So please refresh your browsers, your Canvas links, if you are not seeing week 4, images 5.PowerPoint. I had to make a quick correction to my link. Speaking of incorrect links,
I still don't have it.
you need to refresh. And do you not have it?
I have it.
You have it? Okay. All right, so now we're going to take a look at, why is it doing that? Okay, we're now going to look at the images slide deck, so I'll open it here. Just have another problem to fix with Google Drive.
I have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Like on yours, I see like the actual code. And I kind of looked at the other code, like from the other weeks.
Okay.
You see no code.
I think there is a code link on the modules. Let me double check. Or can you check for me, Anna? Did I put the link to the code or no? Yeah.
I always get to the part where it says code sample.
Okay, let me double check this. Just a second here. Okay, so I need to add this for you, and thanks for pointing it out. Just 1 second. All right, I'll work with this later. So let's get started here. Okay, so right now I'm going to be going through the lecture slides, but I will add the link to the code. So images is the topic. And so there is a little bit of broader discussion around images. So you all know that imagery is very important on the page. I don't think we need to really discuss this much further. And there are some design principles regarding images and how the colors affect the page. So this is essentially its own, really it's an art, but also a science. And those of you, especially on the design track, are going to take classes that will talk a lot more. So I'm just glazing over it. The focus of this class is web authoring. But images are extremely important, and the coloring of the image, and there is a lot of, again, there is a lot of science really that goes into creating sites, right? There are complementary colors and, rules that you need to follow and principles that actually make it so that when you look at something, it's beautiful, but there is a reason why. And you'll learn more about it when you take your design classes with Nathan. All right. And so remember that when you're working with images, some images are subject to a copyright, so you need to be careful about you should not really use images that are not your own, or images that are not with a license for free use. So make sure to check that, especially when you're working on for someone's website.
I was going to comment.
Please.
There's some nice like websites where you can download a lot of like creative.
Creative Commons is the license type? Yeah, yeah.
Basically, you can just use them for free or commercially.
Mhm.
One of my favorites is today. There's
Okay.
a lot of like really cool, nice images.
Can you put us a link in the discussion?
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, there are many sites, and you probably find out some for yourself, but there are definitely places where you can get free images. Sometimes you find that they give you a free image sort of as a clickbait, and then they want you to buy. Just play around. So I don't know, this site might not be like that. And then maybe you have your own images as well. But just be sure to check the license of the image before you use it. When you search on Google for images, also you can specify one. Let's see here. Let's look for. I'm going to show you a really cool cat that you probably haven't seen before. So this is I'm looking for a Manul cat, and then when I go to images, I can actually get some more granular search here in terms of what kind of images I can. Let's see if they change this. So you can check what type of format. And then usage rights is the one. Let me magnify this here. Okay. So again, I think I might have done this a bit too fast, but so I'm looking for this cat. And then if you go to settings, and again, that goes to any image, advanced search. That's a pretty cool cat, right? No, no. It's a very solitary wild cat. And so I just for a second, one of the curious things about it is it's the only cat that actually has a round, see that it doesn't have slits like most cats, it has round. Yeah, so anyway, very fascinating stuff. But back on track here, settings, advanced search. What I wanted to show you is, again, you can also, check for different sizes. Maybe you just want medium-sized images, so that's very helpful. And then the usage rights is the one that got me talking about this point. And there are different types of licenses. So it can be free to share. Sometimes they're free to share, but not commercially. So maybe just for student projects. So just make sure to check and be aware about the images you're using, right? All right. And then Cheyenne, is this your name, Cheyenne?
Yeah.
Is going to post a link to one possible site you can look for images, for free images. Okay. So Getty Images is a company that is based in Seattle, and they have a more high-end, so you can pay for images if you like. And you should keep consistent. So what is the unifying element here for these different dresses? What ties it all together? Does anything tie this together for you? The display. The display is the same even though the dresses are different. So that's the consistent element, is one example here. Okay, and then storing your images on your site. You're going to start adding a new folder now, which is going to be called images, or IMGS for short. And that's where you're going to put your images. So now you're going to have your folder for your work. So maybe now you're going to have Web 110 and then images folder, and then you're going to have your HTML files. Soon you're going to also have a CSS folder for your CSS files. And soon after that, you'll probably take a JavaScript class, and you're going to have a scripts folder to put your JavaScript at. So this is a sort of a standard layout. So images is where you keep your images. You don't just put them in the same folder as your other materials. And also look at here, right? This is the images are in the image folder, and then the HTML files are in the parent folder, right? So how do you add images? So it's going to be a tag, of course, image tag, and then the attribute is going to be source, src is equal to, and then the path, the directory, usually it's going to be images, and then the name of the file, including the file extension, right? And then you're going to have an alt. And then you're going to have also a title, which you see where it shows on the page. So this is the basic format for adding an image to your page. And once you add this other interesting looking animal, I guess, mostly cute, then the image is going to display. All right. So now we need some images to work with. And for you to add images to your page, you actually need to have the images. Technically, okay, you could add a link to an image, right? So that nothing prevents you to add a link to an image instead of have your images locally. But that's not really how we do things. One of the problems is that maybe if you link to someone else's image, you have no idea, they might take it down and so on. So essentially, you want to have the images as local files and then put them on your server rather than linking to images on the web, all right? But you could do this as well. All right, so I have all these images for the samples under link to images download. Did anyone already download the code files for the book? If you did, you probably have these already. But here are the images. And so the way to download these images are on the author's website. So, and you can see here as the domain name. And then there's a couple directories, code samples, chapter 5. That's a good use of, I just did something here. Images, and then these are the images. So to grab those images, you can right click and then save link as, and you need to do this with all of the images and save link as. It doesn't save, so it should have prompted me to save to the folder I wanted, but it didn't. So then this means it's going to put it in which folder? By default, it's going to put it in the downloads folder. Yeah. And then it's going to put it there, and then you need to download in the downloads folder and then move it to your images folder. So this will probably take 5 minutes or so to do. Please give it a try, and then if you have any problems, we can, Erin and I can help you. But right now your task is to download all these images locally to your machine. And again, save link as. Lemon. All right, so after you download the images, I'm not saying you did already download them, I just wanted to show you. Then you're going in your Web 110, you're going to go to your Web 110 folder. And create a folder in here, images. I already have one for some reason. Okay, I'll just. So new folder, images. And then you will copy the images from, or cut, or copy, Control X. And then paste in the images folder. What? Wow. Did you see what just happened? It's, well, do it again. Let's see here. For download.
We can save image also, I mean, there is no down. The images that you put up there, the ones supposed to like, let them.
Yeah, so you need to download them locally on your machine and then put them in the images folder.
You mean a different image or this one?
All of them. So go to Canvas.
Sonny, where to download it?
Yeah, I mean, in this case, yes. Sometimes you can zip them up, but in this case, just do one by one. It's not that many. It's about 5.
I'm like, what I am.
Okay, so if you're there, take a look. There is more than one way to do this. I don't know if that's the best way. I think it is. And then you can.
Just save the image as well. There is no download button.
No, you have to do save as. Yeah. I used to put them in the Google Drive, and then you can zip them and download them, and that seemed to be confusing as well. So I'm just going to have it downloaded from here. If you download them from Google Drive, it will actually zip it up for you.
So they create a folder called images and then put it in the web 110
Yeah.
and then or put
Copy the file
pictures
in in the folder.
in the web 110.
Yeah, because when you say save as, did you see it saving them in the downloads folder?
Yeah,
It's
it's
right.
saving it in my desktop.
Yeah,
Put
so
in
remove
the
it from
image
there.
first.
Yeah, download it and then put it in your images folder in the web 110 folder. All right, so your goal is to have the following happen. Have a web 110 folder, images folder, and then the images in here. And I already am anticipating a problem I'll tell you about. You might have downloaded multiple images like I did. So if your file name is lemon posset 1 and you're looking for a lemon posset, it's going to not find it. So you can wait and fix it later, or if you're ready now and you have this, just rename the file, and then this would, there we go, prevent the problem from happening. Right? Although it's in use. Oh, I see. Okay. There we go. All right. So we have multiples here. I think I only have one quokka. Let's see. I'm missing one. Diamonds? Bird. I think I'm missing the bird. Okay.
The image.html or just image? Images just
The name of the folder
Yeah.
is just images. Yeah. So the folders don't have extensions. All right. Okay, so raise your hand if you have a problem. Otherwise, if you're ready, we can start. Okay.
I'm just trying to like I already have one folder there.
Okay, so just put them there.
Rename it.
Yeah. Oh, this is a folder. Oh, okay, scroll down further down. Yeah. So right click again, please. Okay, if you're doing it from quick access, it's not going to let you rename. It's just actually a feature that doesn't make any sense. So you need to get to it not through quick access, but through your
Oh, okay.
here. So where is that file?
I have no idea. I just
Folder.
now. Maybe not here.
Maybe it's in the Web 110 folder. Is it? Just make a new one. Why don't you just make a new one in the Web 110?
I know, but I could have seen like new folder.
Oh, so where is your Web 110? So if we click on here, I'll show you. So just right click in here and say new. Can you
I
write
used to have it up there.
new folder? New folder. And then name it images. There you go. Okay. And then that's it.
And then go to desktop. That's the one I got.
Okay.
So,
I want you to grab the Quokka because we're going to work with the Quokka, and then it's one of the images, and then you can come back and do the other ones. So just grab this one so we can. So save link as, and we can just put it in the. Where's your Web 110? You have to go to it through here. Just
well, somewhere is right there.
all right, there you go. Okay. So now you have the file we need for this exercise. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on the first adding an image, the first example. And this is going to require the Quokka, if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Okay, so we're going to create, with the Web 110 folder, we're going to create a new file. And let's title it basic basic-image.html.
The basic image.
Yeah, just name it as basic-image.html. And then add your basic tags, or you can always open your template if you have it. Basic image example. All right, so we're going to have essentially an image tag in here. And then the source is going to be pointing, the source attribute is going to point to images slash I believe it's quokka.jpg. And then we're going to give it the alt tag, which is we learned last time or the time before, last time. It's going to load in the case that the image is not found, then it's going to at least display this text. And the image tag is one of these tags that only has one tag. So that's the first time we're seeing something like that. But I told you most tags have opening and closing. So image is one of the tags that only has one tag. And then once we have it here, we're going to save and then test it by loading the page. And here it is.
Spell that for me. What image is?
The name of the, so here is the code. Let me bring up the code again. There you go. Okay, any problems? Is everyone able to upload the, not upload, but add the image to your page?
I'm following with the code and how did you get the image?
How did I get the image to show or to? Did you, okay, it sounds like there was an answer there. All right. Yeah, not the actual image, the actual folder where the image is. That's actually something we should probably do right now. Okay, good. That would be a good exercise. So let's go ahead and upload the basic file plus the image so you can see how this works. Yeah. So if you want this image, feel a little funny about uploading this image, but just temporarily maybe, because it's not really ours. But if you wanted to upload images, let's go through this process with FileZilla now. Yeah, so now, so far we have been working locally on your computers. Did you guys solve the problem back there? Great. And so now we want to have this file on the web and the image display on the web. Questions? Is this a file?
That's base
What is this, a file? Yeah.
yeah, that whatever we're working on right now.
Okay, so if you double click it, it should open. Maybe it's, I don't know why you're using, so it's not finding the image because you have a typo. You have SCR instead of SRC. Yeah. So fix that. And also the name of the folder is lowercase, so fix that too. And then there is an equal there. All right. So it will be src dash equal. There is also equal between the attribute and the value. There you go. Try now. And you need to put this inside the body, so it's still not, the body has to be after, right? Okay.
I did set it up.
Yeah. All right, so we want to now upload this to the web. Are we ready for that step? Okay. And so what tool do we need to upload our file with image on the web? FileZilla, right? Hopefully everyone knows this by now. So let's see if FileZilla works now or if I'll use my backup. No. I think FileZilla doesn't work for me. All right. And so that you gave me the folder and we put it on the desktop. Okay, and then once you have FileZilla open, you need to connect to your website. So open FileZilla, connect to your website. And again, if you connected successfully, it's going to say so here. So the status should be successful, otherwise you need to see what the problem might be. I know you all uploaded your homework, so it seems like everyone has this working. And now we need to figure out where we want to put the file and then put it there. So we're going to put it in the Web 110 folder, right? So this is my root folder, and then Web 110. And I want it in this folder. And now we need to find the local file, which would be again on the left pane here. All right. So then we know that we need to upload which file? Specific part. It's actually very easy. You just need to upload specific part, and you need to upload your images folder, okay? And then put them in the web 110, and then everything should work, right? Or yeah, basic image. That's correct. That was the previous example. So the file we're working with, which is basic image, and I'm just going to drag it and put it in web 110. And it told me there is a successful transfer, so that's good. And now for the images, you actually need to upload the entire folder, right? You want to, again, mirror your structure on the web. So I'm going to drag images up here. And that's pretty much it. And then I always like to double check everything, so I'll open it to make sure it has all these images there. Let's make this temporary. At some point, we should take those down. Those are not really our images, but just for this lecture, we'll keep them here. And now the next step would be for us to test. So we need to go to the URL to test to make sure that everything works, right? And so I'll go to, in my case, Stani Meredith, the Dream Hosters / web 110 / basic image. And here is my Poco image on the web. And that's what should happen if you did everything correctly. So I'll give you a few minutes here to make sure that you're able to make this work for you. Wonderful. All right, raise your hand if you're having any problems, Joe. What is the problem? Let's see. Okay, so how would we troubleshoot this? What do you think is a problem?
Well, it either isn't in my web 110 folder. So here's the basic.
Yeah, looks like it's there.
Basic image.
Okay. Images is there. So double click to make sure they're, yeah. So that's all. So then it's probably your URL. So let's go and see if you constructed your URL correctly.
Into
On the web, on the Chrome. So the URL is the link. So go to Chrome. Yeah. So let's see if you make some. Is this what you named your file?
basic.
You don't have a dash.
I have a dot.
You have a dot? That's not going to work. The dot is not going to work, so go to the FileZilla and we can fix this.
Okay.
Get out of the images folder by clicking on the web 110 folder, double clicking. Okay. So do you see here you can drag this little vertical line to give yourself more. Do you see this thing here? Just drag it.
This thing?
No, down here. Cover over a little more to the right. Now you can see the full name.
Okay.
So basically, right click on the basic image and rename it to basic dash. There we go.
That was the whole problem.
Yeah. It's usually something like that.
So now if I go back here.
It should work. There you go.
So do I need to, so then from here, do I need to rename it here, basic dash image?
Yeah, you should, because it's not going to rename it locally. It only renamed it on the server. Do you see?
Do that by
Just save as, probably. Yeah. Question? Okay, do you feel like you got a hang of this? Or? All right. And we have the tutors, so make sure to see the tutors if you have any questions. See you next time. All right. So did everyone upload their images and it's working to see your page on the web with image? Very good. Thanks you. All right, then we're going to move along here. So here we go. And again, the alt tag. Oh, we didn't add the title tag. So how about we add the title tag to our image, which we didn't do yet. So it's going to be, again, the attributes, you can put them in any order that you want to. This is the Walker.
That's the text that shows up when you hover over. Is that
Right, so let's view, the alt text is going to show if the page is not, if the image is not loaded, sorry. See, now we have to make sure we're looking at the local file. Huh. Let's see. Well, there it is. Okay. So if you hover over it, it should show the title. And then the alt is going to show again if you have a broken link, for example, and it's not. Yeah. All right. So here we go. Aaron.
I was gonna say, usually have the text with the little hover. I usually put like a is, what it is. You have like some type of paragraph or heading.
Oh, before the image? Yeah, I mean, sure, that's, yeah. No, that's something, we're right now just learning how to add the image, but yeah. All right. There's a lot to add. Okay, so now that we know how to add a basic image and you learned about the title tag, you can constrain the dimensions of the image, such as here you can say width and height. And then this way you can actually change the size of your image through HTML. But there are two things about that. One of them is that generally you want to load the images the size you want them to be, because it's actually faster than trying to then change up the size in runtime, so to speak. And then if you are going to be doing anything with the width and the height, this is a presentation layer, so where do you think we should do that? In the CSS. So that's why I'm just not going to do this right now. But generally, the first rule is that you should upload your image, you should prepare your images in the size you want them to be, and then upload them rather than doing this on the page. All right. So I'm going to show you a quick video of how to use essentially Photoshop. And we should have Photoshop installed here. But when you get an image, you might need to do some editing to it. And so this is the little reference video from the book to show you how to do this. I wish I could make this bigger, but can you see this okay? So this tool is Photoshop. And again, you should have access to it here. There is a whole Photoshop class, so you might take this eventually. So this here, I don't know why there is no sound, but this is an important little button which, if you click it, it's going to essentially proportionally change the size of the both dimensions. So you want to have this linked together, basically. I think that
this brings up a new window. On the left, you can see the original image, and on the right, you can see the version I'm saving for use on the web. If you look at the size, the image on the left is 198K, but the one on the right is only 28K. So this feature is reducing the size of the file to less than 1/6. And because the file size is smaller, when someone comes to look at the website, it will load faster. This is because the Save for Web option is compressing the image for us to use on the web. Up here on the right, you can see a quality option. This indicates the quality that we want the image to be saved at. If I lower the quality too much, the image becomes blurry. So I've set this one to 70%. If you do not see two images next to each other, look in the top left of this window. You should see 4 tabs. If the original tab is selected, you only see the original image. With 2 up selected, you see the original image on the left and the version you'll be saving on the right. This allows you to see how quality affects the image you're saving. Now that we're happy with this image, I press Save. I give the file a new name and press the Save button in the bottom right-hand corner. This saves a new version of the image for me, and I can close the original. When I close the image, I'm prompted to see whether I want to save changes. I want to keep a copy of the image at its original size, so I select Don't Save. Now I have a photo that's much smaller than the original JPEG and is ready to be used on my website. This tutorial is an accompaniment to the book HTML and CSS. To find out more, visit htmlcssbook.com.
All right. Any comments about the video? Sure.
I'm not so familiar with Photoshop, but if you want to link multi-size images depending on the size of the screen, but you have to link each image, or can we just link one image and say, like, we want to do some
I don't like a batch work job with Photoshop. Okay, so
Like, I guess if we,
essentially you can do anything you want in Photoshop. So the answer is yes. You just have to know how. Yeah, you can do that. There's a batch jobs you can do. I'm not exactly a Photoshop wizard. I just know enough to.
I mean, like,
Yeah.
we're making our website,
Yeah.
Because some people might want a different quality image.
Right.
Do we need to link, like, 2 different copies of that image? Or can we just link one copy and say display the quality?
Yeah, that's exactly what you do for. You can't really do that. So the image is going to be the size. You can do something in CSS to serve different image. So that would be the thing to do this. There's something called media query. And then maybe based on the resolution, you can serve one image in one case, another image in another case.
So you wouldn't.
No, you don't change the quality of the image. No, you put a different image. You maybe prepare 2 images, and then you use CSS to detect which one to serve up.
Like 2 or 3 based on the screen resolution.
No, it's more common that you might. Well, yeah, actually, it is pretty common because if you're looking at a big image, what is common is, for example, you have this big, 600 by whatever image here, and then that's your centerpiece on your page. And then when you detect a phone device, you actually take away the image because there is no space. So it's called, essentially what you want to do is distill down to essentials, the smaller the resolution. So that's, I think, where you're getting at. And that's the common scenario. But if you want to serve up different images, nothing prevents you. The technology is there with CSS, media queries to do that. Right? Okay, so we're almost out of time. At least let me go over a couple lecture slides. We don't have time to do another example. But I wanted to talk to you about the different types of images. And I think we touched upon this some time ago. So let me show you this. And again, there is a Photoshop class you can take. I think it's 3 credits. And that's where you're going to learn a lot more about working with Photoshop and with images. I don't know why this is doing this here. Okay. So there are different types of images, and you should select the right format for what you are planning to do. These kind of images are JPEG. That's a common format. Essentially, if you have multiple colors, you should use JPEG images. So that's the preferred, and sometimes saved as GPG, right? If you have colors, you should use JPEG. if you have logos are commonly recommended to be just one color because you need to be able to print them. It's not always followed, but in any case, images such as logos that are just one, so one solid cover for color, there is no gradation, then you should use GIF images for this purpose, right? Graphical image format. Sometimes they call GIF, so there's a lot of heated meme wars going on, GIF or GIF, but GIF. And so as I already told you, you should create the image in the same width and height that you want to upload. Don't do this on the web. Do it beforehand. Plan out. That's why you need to plan out your layout for your page, and then have your image ready in the size. And that's why you have these placeholders. You already know it's going to be 600 by 400, and that's the size you need to have for the image when it goes up on your site. Okay. And then if your dimensions are not constrained, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have distorted image in this way. So make sure to have constrained dimensions, as I showed you, as the video showed rather, in Photoshop. And the other thing I'm sure has happened to all of you, if you have a small image like this is maybe 200 by 150 or something like that. And then if I decided to make it bigger with the width and height attribute and make it 600 by 400, what would happen? It's going to be very blurry, and you don't want this to happen. That's painful on the eyes. So don't, again, generally you shouldn't change the dimensions, but especially don't go from a smaller image to a larger resolution because it's going to become blurry. Essentially, that's the last thing I'll tell you. What is happening is an image is created out of pixels. So the pixels are like an X and Y coordinate system where each pixel is a dot on the screen. And if you try to get it fit a bigger screen, it doesn't have enough pixels and it stretches them out, and that's how they become distorted. So that's all we have time for. So it looks clearly that next time we meet, we're going to continue working with images. And your homework will remain the same as it is right now, okay? Any comments? All right, that's all for today. Thanks.